beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of the Get It On It podcast. It's a podcast where we talk about mental health, the trial and tribulations of trauma, but also the art of healing. I'm Ivory, I'm your host, and I am so excited to dive into this week's episode. Today's guest is someone whose impact has stretched far beyond the classroom walls. I'm sitting down with Mr. Joel Plummer, an educator, author, photojournalist, and community voice from Plainfield, New Jersey. With over a decade of experience teaching and mentoring, Mr. Plummer has dedicated his career to shaping how students see themselves and the world around them. From teaching African American studies to serving as a professor at Rutgers University, his work continues to center identity, growth, and truth-telling. He's also the author of Black Kid, White School, a book that blends purpose, perseverance, and personal reflection. In today's conversation, we dive into what it means to teach, to lead, and to evolve, both inside and outside the classroom. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's give it up for Mr. Joel Plummer.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited.
It's an honor to be here.
No, it's an honor to have you, Mr. Plummer. Listen, I was just telling you this beforehand. I've only been to Plainfield High School 1 year, which is my senior year. And I have to say that because of that one class I had with you, over a decade now, it still inspires me with the things that you said, that you taught, and you're still a part of my life, man.
I so appreciate that. And that's the goal of my teaching. That's the point, to impact students and hopefully, be one of the voices that stays in their mind long after they're gone.
You are. I'm telling you right now. So, Mr. Plummer, you did so much for us as, just as a teacher. I really want to understand, who is Mr. Joel Plummer? I want to understand who you were, how did you become? Because I feel like there's so much things about you that I really don't know and understand. I see the things that you do online through social media, but I really want to dig a little deeper with who the man that you are. Okay?
Let's do it.
All right. So, Mr. Plummer, can you please tell me, who was young Joel and exactly where was he born and how did he get started in this world?
Okay, my sort of hero origin story. So young Joel Plummer was born in New Brunswick, but in 1975, my family moved to Plainfield, 689 West 8th Street in 1978. So I've been in Plainfield since I was 3 years old. I'm 50 now.
Okay.
I grew up in Plainfield, West 8th Street, right next to Hubbard.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I was West 7th Street.
Okay. I'm a super proud product of the Plainfield public school system. I believe in public education. I believe in urban education, and I am the proof that it works. I went to Plainfield public schools my entire life, but something interesting happened along that path, because you want to know, where I came from. I spent, 12 and a half years, because kindergarten was half day back then. 12 and a half years in a public school system where the entire time I had an all-black board of education, black superintendents, mostly black principals, smattering of black teachers, and I learned almost nothing about myself. 4 years of honors English at Plainfield High School, almost entirely black school, black principal, black board, black super, read one black author in those classes. We did Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. That was it. I had a couple of teachers, namely Mr. Truitt, Mr. Pannone, that taught some black history within the curriculum. I had the legendary Mr. Rob's African American history course. But in 13 years, I learned very little about myself. And so I wanted to correct that. But even, that's fast forwarding a little bit. Growing up, I didn't know what I wanted to do. My father worked at Rutgers. He was a dean at Rutgers. My mother was a kindergarten teacher, but I had no interest in education whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it's one of the gripes I have with young people today, is that young people tend not to have a big enough imagination about what their lives can be. And I was like that too when I was young. I didn't really know. Until what happened is there used to be this program called the W.E.B. Du Bois Scholars Program. And it was a program where they took high achieving Black and Latino students. And they would take us for about a month in the summer and take us up to William Patterson College and give us college courses and instructions on leadership, and try to develop us into the next leaders of our people. And I took all that in, but what really changed me was that it was a 2-summer program. In the second summer of that program, one of the things we had to do was teach algebra to 8th grade students from Newark. Mm-hmm. And now at this time, I'm a sophomore in high school. I hate math. To this day, I can't stand math. I have no use for math whatsoever. I know the whole universe revolves around it and everything can be related to mathematics. Can't stand it.
We see eye to eye.
Like, if I don't even like book page numbers. Like, if there was some other better system, I would use it.
Yeah.
So, but they made us, like, we had to teach algebra. And I'm like, I barely know this stuff myself. And I hate even being around the subject. And I had no interest in kids. I'm 15 at the time. But it was mandatory. So I got assigned, it's a one-on-one thing. And some people had two. But I got assigned a student. I believe her name was Zakia. And I'm teaching her had to have been basic algebra, because if I could do it, that couldn't have been that complicated. And I remember one day she's trying to solve an equation. It had to be a simple solve for X type thing. And I saw that she was struggling. We were sitting next to each other. And so I leaned over to try to help her. And she's like, no, don't tell me. You taught me this yesterday. I can do it. And she figured it out. And at that moment, that was like the greatest feeling I ever had. I was like, wow, this person knows something new because of me. I made that happen. And it was like this high I got that made me realize I need to be a teacher. And I was like, this is a subject I hate. Like, I can't stand this. So imagine if I was teaching what it would feel like to teach the subject that I actually care about. Mm-hmm. And I can make students have those moments. And that high I got from teaching her, that moment's what I've been chasing the rest of my career. And so now, going back to what I wasn't taught, now I said, okay, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to recapture that same moment, but by doing it with history and giving particularly Black students the history that I never got taught. The experiences and the cultural view and the ideologies that I didn't get taught to me, I'm going to make sure that my students always get that.
And we sure did. So I have a question. Before getting into actually teaching, was there ever a mentor or a teacher that actually really shaped your mind into like getting to the process of becoming an educator?
There's so many. And as we talk about growing up, my mentors have changed and the group has been added to. But in the beginning, I always say that it was really my junior year in high school. I hated almost all of my classes junior year in high school. Had a horrible junior year. But Paul Pannone at Plainfield High School was such a great teacher. It was just, the classes felt like a conversation back and forth. It didn't feel like you were being talked to or just do some worksheets. And the way he taught made me realize, like, yeah, I can do this. There's a way you can do this where school doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be painful. He was the one that made me really think to myself, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do. And then when I got to college, I had a professor, and so I went to college with the specific purpose of learning about myself. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how people can go to college, spend thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, $100,000 in debt, and you don't spend any time learning about yourself. That's absolutely insane to me. So I went to school and I became an African and African American studies major. And I came across this professor named Jesse Rhines. And he probably, to this day, doesn't understand how much he impacted me. He just seemed like, I don't know, almost like a demigod. It just seemed like he knew everything. He's a black guy from DC, but ended up going to Yale, got a PhD from Cal Berkeley, and it just seemed like he knew everything about Black people. He knew every book, he knew every argument, and he was hilarious and down to earth. Like, he's the smartest person in the room, but doesn't make you feel bad for not being on his level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he could just bring people up and make you think. In my classes, I always tell people when the class is too loud, I don't tell students to shut up. I tell them to focus. And I got that from Jesse Rhines. He would say I would never be so classless as to tell you to shut up, but I will tell you to focus. Stole that straight from him. I took as many classes with him as possible. So a lot of my teaching is I am just straight plagiarizing from Mr. Pannone on the high school level and Dr. Rhines on the collegiate level. Watching them taught me how to be a teacher. And I took education courses. And I didn't learn much about teaching in the education courses, especially about teaching Black children. I always say I only learned one useful sentence in all of my years of taking education courses. And that is from Howard Segan: you can't teach strangers. You have to know your students, and your students have to know you. You have to let your students know who you are. Mm-hmm. And when you make that connection, then learning can actually happen. But those three things, watching Pannone in high school, watching Dr. Rhines in college, and Howard Segan teaching me that you can't teach strangers, that made me the educator that I am.
Okay. So I want to know, what was your first year teaching like for you?
Oh, worst year. Is it the worst year of my life? I'd have to catalog. I have to go through it. But it's top 3. Absolutely horrible.
What happened?
Horrible. So, education courses do not teach you to actually teach. It's just all this theory, and none of that works when you get put in front of a room of 25 little kids. Mm-hmm. And most teachers quit in their first year. And when teachers quit, it's going to be the first year, because you go into education thinking that it's about this information, but it's not. The subject doesn't matter. It's about understanding people and being able to connect with people. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to do that first year. I thought I was going to walk in the room. I just graduated from college, whole bunch of honors, Phi Beta Kappa, that the kids would see me and they just become enamored with me. Like, oh, look at this guy. I got to hang on to every word. They could care less. They didn't care. My first year was in teaching middle school at WOK Middle School in Hillside. Mm-hmm. And kids don't care about your degrees. They don't care about any of the stuff. And so I couldn't control the classroom for anything. It was just chaos. I was full of anxiety every day because, think about it. Most people don't like doing public speaking.
Yeah.
Well, as a teacher, you're doing that every day. And it's a hostile crowd. They don't want to be there. They're forced to be there. Mm-hmm. So it's 180 days of public speaking with a crowd that doesn't want to be there. And I didn't know what to do. I was lost. So there's kids bouncing around. There's behavior problems. I'm feeling disrespected. It's a bunch of traffic on Route 22 to get there. Yeah. I had very few positive moments. There was times where I connected with some of the kids. Especially at an honors class, and I remember some of those kids. And I had some kids, shout out to Nicole Andrews, who made me feel better each day because, like, the class is going wild, but there was a couple of kids like her that would make me feel like I was actually doing something, that actually showed appreciation in real time. But I was lost. I was lost. And then halfway through that year, I actually transferred back to Plainfield because I was thinking, like, maybe it'd be better if I was back home. Mm-hmm. And I was literally like a door away because I went back to my parents' house. I was half 2 2 doors away from Hubbard. Nope, still horrible. Middle school kids were just running me out the room. It was so bad that, and I think it's important, people too often see the success of a person, and we don't spend enough time on the failures. Let me go into my failures here. Teaching middle school was so bad for me that at Hubbard, we had just gotten the internet, and we got 2 computers in every classroom. I would spend my time on those computers looking at the weather forecast, trying to see when my next snow day might possibly be, so I didn't have to come back.
Oh, really?
That's how painful it was for me. It was chaos.
Wow.
It was absolute chaos. And it was nothing like I thought. I really thought the kids would just automatically fall in love with me.
Embrace you.
Yeah, and it was not like that at all. I had moments here and there with kids, but nothing consistent. Like when something went right, it was pure luck. It had nothing to do with my talent or ability. It was just luck. And I don't know why I didn't quit. A friend of mine always said that your why has to be strong enough to overcome the obstacles and circumstances in your way. The why you're doing something. So I guess my why, my purpose, my mission, no matter how much pain I was going through, was strong enough for me to still believe that, yeah, this year was horrible, but you could actually do it. And then when I switched to high school in subsequent years, that made a big difference. And I was able to learn from that first year, and also combined with working with high school students who I always wanted to work with, I was able to figure out something. And speaking of mentors, I learned this from my teaching mentor in real time, Vanessa Bryant, English teacher at Plainfield High School. One of the things she explained to me, and I tell this to all new teachers now, she said, Plummer, there is no such thing as classroom control. The kids outnumber you 20-1, 30-1. You're never in control of the classroom. The kids are always in control of the classroom. Classroom control is an illusion. And what she taught me is the kids always have the power, but what good teachers are able to do, they're able to convince their students that it's in their best interest to surrender their power to the teacher. See, what makes a classroom work is when the teacher gets the students to believe that the experience I'm going to give you, the things we're going to do, the information I'm going to give is so useful, so impactful, so engaging that it's in your best interest to surrender your power to me so that you can experience it. And that's why all classrooms start out fine in the beginning, because the students are evaluating whether it's a good deal or not. All right, let me give the teacher a chance. But little by little, when the classroom starts collapsing and it loses control, that's the students saying, without verbally saying, that, nah, we think this is a raw deal. We gave you the power, we saw what you're offering, and we're not buying it. So we're taking our power back, and we're going to run this classroom the way we want. And so ever since that point, I've been able to successfully convince my students that what I'm giving them is worth them surrendering their power, and I've been running ever since.
And with the way you connect with your students, I think is amazing. Like I said, with all the mentors that you named the list, I do see all the things that you did from just being in your classroom. But I wanted to understand, because what year did you start working at Plainfield High School?
January of 2002.
So you was in Plainfield High School when Plainfield High School was Plainfield High School.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to know, like, how did you connect with your students on, like, a personal level during that time?
It's easy. They're humans and they're kids.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how big they are, no matter what's happening in the streets, they're just kids. And you just talk to them like regular people. And you start with an assumption of goodness with everyone. And that's a problem that some teachers have. They do the opposite. They come in guarded. They come in looking for a fight. That's the rookie teacher that comes in like I'm the big bad cop. I'm going to lay down the law,
Right.
and you're going to listen. You don't need to do that. All right, kids aren't looking for a fight. And I tell new teachers all the time, like, you're not scaring anyone, especially you're not scaring any Plainfield kid with your little fancy college degree. You're not intimidated. Like, a lot of these kids have seen some serious stuff, so they're not going to be scared of you. And they don't need to be scared of you. What they need is love. They don't need someone to browbeat them into submission. They need someone that's going to embrace them. And when you show that you are that person, they're not trying to fight with you because they want acceptance. They want mentorship. They want guidance, but they want to be sure that you're a person that's going to actually do that and that you're going to be consistent. And I've been able to do that. And here's the other thing, and it seems so obvious. I actually like kids. There are a whole bunch of teachers across America that don't actually like young people, don't like being with young people. And that's the biggest problem with teachers that fail. I actually love being around the students. Being around the adults is a stress for me in the job. I hate staff meetings. I hate the paperwork. The part of the job I love is when I close the door and I'm with the students. I think they're funny. I think they're engaging. I think they're brilliant. I think they're inspirational. And my test for teachers, I can instantly tell whether you're going to be a good teacher or not. It's just a simple question. I ask them, I say, can you hold a 20-minute discussion with students in your room without talking about school? Because if you can't do that, that means you don't know enough about their lives and their world and their interests to be able to connect any of this school stuff to their real lives. You have to be able to just talk with them. And if it's uncomfortable for you just to talk with them, just to be with them, there's no way you're ever going to be able to teach them. And I actually like being around that age group. Like I said, I think they're inspirational, and kids are great at seeing fake people. They know exactly who you are. They can size you up really quick. And when kids see that you actually care, that you're actually interested, and on top of that, you're giving them information that they haven't had, that they actually find useful in their life, you can't go wrong.
Is there a specific year at Plainfield High School that you remember, like, this was my best year of teaching with these kids?
Oh, peak years.
Because I know, listen, no, I understand, Mr. Plummer. We have a lot. He has a lot of favorites, so let's not get our feelings hurt. I know it might not be my year, but I'm just saying, like, I know, like, what was like one of the years that made you realize, like, this is such a good year of teaching?
All right, so I've been teaching for almost 30 years. I think I'm in year 27. I'll tell you the year I realized I was a pretty good teacher. And they just had their 20th reunion. It's class of 2005. That's the first year where I felt like I was entering my prime, where I walked in each day and I actually really knew what I was doing. Like, I was in control of everything. I could see problems before they happened. I was connecting with students. And I remember I had a class of honor students that was so good that on days, I had them first block. On days when I was sick, I would call out and be sick, but I would come to school for that first block and teach that class and then go home and get in my sick bed because they were so good. They were so valuable to me. Like, I didn't want to waste a day with a sub on them. Like, I felt like I was cheating myself by not being in their presence. And a large part of that is the way we connected with each other. So that was definitely like the year I realized I'm actually a good teacher. Like, I'm actually really, really built for this. And I was making the lifelong connections that I dreamed of doing, that it was actually happening that year. And I've had plenty of years since then of students that I love, years where I thought I was doing a good job. But I remember that year was the first year that I was for sure knowing that yeah, I'm good at this.
Yeah. So, what is something about being a teacher that most people wouldn't understand unless they lived it?
If you're not a teacher, you don't understand how hard it is to make 20, 25, 30 people all move in the same direction, and how much energy it takes. It's almost like it's like being an MC if you're a rapper, right? And being able to get the whole crowd to move with you. Right? It seems simple. Oh, look, all that guy's doing is waving his hand back and forth and the crowd is doing it. But no, there's this years of nuanced learning that goes into making the crowd follow you. Knowing when to raise your voice, knowing when to lower your voice, knowing when to be excited, knowing when to be calm. Being able to read and ride the vibe of the room every single day. And it's exhausting. And that's why it's hilarious to me when people say stuff like, well, we should get professionals to come in and teach blah, blah, blah. Let's get an engineer to come in and teach the math course. We do that all the time, and they usually burn out because they don't understand how hard it is to get people. People all want to do their own thing, and they don't understand how difficult it is to get a group of people for 180 days in a row to all move in the same direction. And it takes a lot of energy. I'm exhausted when I come home from work. I love the job. And I don't have discipline problems. I'm not fighting with kids, but you're giving so much of yourself to so many people. You're listening to so many kids' problems and giving advice. You're just absorbing so much and giving so much every day that it drains you. And it annoys me when people are like, yeah, but you get the summers off. Yeah, that is true. Well, first of all, it's not true. I don't get paid in the summer. So it's not like it's paid summer off.
Right.
But beyond that, if you don't do it, you don't understand how much it takes out of you. And if teachers didn't get that summer, we wouldn't be able to be recharged for September. Because if you're teaching at maximum level, you're leaving it all out on the field every single day. And I spend more time with people's kids than parents.
Yeah, that's true.
And in many cases, I know your child better than you. You know the child that presents a character that is pleasing at home and won't get them in trouble. But I get to see your kid when you're not around. I get to see how much of the work you've done with your child, with discipline, with their desire to learn, with their character. I get to see how much of this is actually sticking. And I'm doing a lot of work on my end trying to reinforce the stuff that's being taught at home. So I'm working just like parents are working to instill greatness into their children. And so it's tiring. And parents get stressed out after having, 2 or 3 kids to work with at home. All right, I got 100 each day. And parents realized that during COVID temporarily, when they were when they had to homeschool, and they didn't. And by the way, parents, you weren't really homeschooling during COVID. You didn't have to make the curriculum. You didn't have to make the lesson plans. All you were doing is essentially what you always should have been doing, which is helping your kids with their work, paying attention to what their teachers are teaching. That's what you're supposed to be doing during non-COVID years. And that was exhausting for parents. So imagine being responsible for everything in education every day for multiple years. It's tiring.
You are preaching to the choir right now. I'm telling you right now. I work with young children myself, and I'm telling you, like, you are essentially, like, in a sense, raising their kids basically, because you're with them like 8-9 hours a day. You're hearing the problems. You're understanding who they are, the disciplines and stuff like that. So when everything you just said, Mr. Plummer, I understand it. I live it, and I get you.
And to add to that, when I get awards, one of the things I always do is thank my wife and my kids, because every time I'm helping someone else's child, I'm taking time away from my family.
Yeah, that's true.
Every minute I spend with someone else's kid, mentoring someone else's kid, that's taking away from my own family. So everything I've accomplished as an educator and as a mentor comes at the expense of my own kids. So they sacrifice so that the greater good can, for the greater good. So I always make sure I thank my children and my wife anytime someone recognizes me, because I couldn't do any of the work I do without them being willing to share their father and their husband with the rest of the world.
How does your kids and your wife feel about you teaching?
It's funny that you should mention that, because just like 2 days ago, I teach now at PAS, the Plainfield Academy for Arts and Advanced Studies, and my oldest daughter goes there. And one of the custodians is one of my former students, and he told my daughter Alexis that your father's the GOAT.
He is,
and she was like, "Nah, I don't see it."
It be your own kids,
right? It's like he's just dad,
mm-hmm.
and that's okay. They see me as I'm just a regular guy. Like, it doesn't matter what I do. I was shooting a boxing match, like you said. I'm a photographer, and it was like a HBO Max HBO fight, and I'm ringside, so I'm on TV, taking pictures and stuff. And a couple of teacher friends are like, "Oh, that's so cool! You're on TV." Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
I come home, my kids are like, "You got anything to eat?" I was like, "Yeah, I was just on TV. Did you see me?" They're like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. I'm hungry." None of that stuff matters. I will say, though, I think my daughter was a little bit proud of me when at Sindell's bookstore they hosted my first book talk about this book.
Mm-hmm.
And she saw how many people came to the talk. I had former students that came from out of state to come back for the talk. And my daughter's never really seen me in a classroom, right? Because she's in school when in her classes while I'm teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was one of the first times she got to see me work a room. And she didn't say much, but at the end of the night, after book signings and stuff, she did give me a pat on the back. She's like, not bad, old man. So I'm just dad to them no matter what. And which is good, because that keeps you humble. Yes. Right? People compliment you all the time. You start believing all the hype. Your kids will let you know all your flaws real quick. Like I've watched them imitate me and mock me, and it's very humbling. You have to have high self-esteem to have children, because they will find all your flaws and let you know what they are.
That part. So, Mr. Plummer, you teach African American studies, right?
I teach African American studies. I teach Latino history, and now I'm so grateful. Plainfield paid for me to have a photography class at PAS.
Finally.
Yeah, they invested some serious money into equipment, brand new equipment. And so I'm super excited about that as well.
Nice. So I want to know this. How has that shaped the way you approach teaching and helping students understand who they are with all those things you're teaching?
It's the reason why I became a teacher. It's one of the reasons that I live. When I talk to students all the time about finding their passion. Mm-hmm. Because I explain to them, you're going to spend most of your adult lifehood at work, or at least the best hours of a day during adulthood, you're going to be stuck at work. So you better make sure you're doing something that you actually love, because work is what you're doing when you'd rather be doing something else. So if you're playing a video game, but you'd rather be going out for a run, well, then you're working. And I say the key to success is to never have to work, to get paid for doing what you love. And that African American history course is like one of the centerpieces of my existence as the adult Joel Plummer. I've dedicated almost my entire adult life to teaching that class. Every time I go on a trip, every time I read a book, every time I watch a movie, every time I watch the news, every time I have a conversation, I meet someone, I'm thinking about what I can pull in to that class. Mm-hmm. Everything I do at school, other than that class, is just stuff I have to do so that I can teach that class. All right, when I teach a U.S. history course, I teach a Latino history course, which I'm interested in when I go to staff meetings and lesson plans. But all that other stuff is what I do so that I can teach this African American history course, so that I can continue the legacy of Mr. Robb, who had the class at Plainfield High School. Then he passed it to Mr. Truitt, and Mr. Truitt passed it to me. So very few people have had that course. That lineage is precious to me. And that course is the centerpiece of my existence as a teacher. You could take everything else away. If I still have that course, I am who I am, because that is the course where I know I change people's lives. That is the course where I've been saying lately that my job is, like, I have this long bio of all the stuff I've done, but really what I am is a historical optometrist. And that is, I use history to help particularly Black people see their past clearly, their present clearly, and their future clearly. Because without understanding your history, you have no idea who you are. You can't see the world accurately. And that's my job, to put corrective lenses on people. And so in my African American history class, that's when I let students know the greatness of who they are. And once you understand who you are, you understand what you can be. Perceptual psychologists say the greatest predictor of future success is past success. Well, if you've had all your past success hidden from you for centuries, then it's hit or miss about whether you think you can be great in the future. But when students get exposed to the greatness of who they are, historically, physically, culturally, psychologically, socially, when they get all that, suddenly the possibilities of what they can become becomes infinite. And that's what happens in my African American history course. Like, if you want peak Plummer at his highest powers, that's the course to be in.
What's one topic you taught, especially in the African American Studies class, that really like shook the ground, I'll say, for you, that really started getting conversations started? Because I remember for me, like, when I was going to your class, I'm not, like I said, I went to pause, you know, so I went from 7th grade to 11th grade. So I wasn't always aware of African American Studies class until going to your class and really having those conversations, and also really understanding my power as a Black man and what I have to do and how to be safe. But what is one topic that you say that, I guess, any year you can say that really like struck a nerve with the class you was talking to about?
I start the course now. One of my early lessons is I have a timeline.
Okay.
And I actually have it in this book as well. And I remind people that for most of America's existence, America was a slave-owning society. The largest portion of American history, America is a slave-owning society. It's a society where they made a system where your worth is based on the color of your skin. Right? America's not the first country to have slavery. Europeans weren't the first to enslave, but they're the first to do race-based slavery, where your determination of servitude is based on the color of your skin. And not only is it you, it's your whole family line forevermore, simply because of the color of your skin. That's what America was for its largest portion of history. Then you have nearly 100 years of history after the ending of slavery, where there's legally mandated discrimination and racism towards Black people. And this is important because a lot of different ethnic groups will say, well, everyone in America had it hard. When the Irish came here, they were discriminated against. The Italians were discriminated against. Poles were discriminated against. True. But the difference is the racism, the discrimination, the hatred that Black people experienced in America wasn't tradition. It wasn't custom. It was law. It was literally illegal not to be racist towards Black people, right? It's illegal. I want Black people to come to my school. Illegal. I want Black people to come into my church. Illegal. I want Black people to come into the public swimming pool. Illegal. I want Black people to come into the political system. Illegal. It was illegal for my grandmother in La Plata, Maryland, outside of D.C., to walk on the same sidewalk as white people. It was illegal for her to look white people directly in the eyes. Not custom, not tradition. A state assembly person wrote a bill, took it to the legislative floor, and got it passed as a law. And then the violence that came to Black people, if they violated any of these racist norms, was sanctioned by the state. When Black people got lynched, when they got kidnapped, when they got burned alive, when they got mutilated, the judge was there. The mayor was there. The pastor was there. The teacher was there. There was no safe space. Like often when I talk at colleges, they have this thing where you have to give trigger warnings and say if you're going to talk about intense stuff, you have to give a trigger warning so people can handle it. Black people never had that option. We never had that option of checking out and saying, whoa, this is too much. Time out. Right. I need a break to get myself together, and then we can continue. Now we have to deal with it. There is no safe place. There's safe space. There is no sanctuary. So Black people are under attack, violent attack. Our towns are burnt to the ground during this 100-year period. People say there's Chinatowns, there's Koreatowns, there's Latino neighborhoods of businesses. Why aren't the Black people doing it? Because they got burnt down and no one got punished. Then, after 1954, segregation is legally outlawed, but masses, the majority of white America, refuses to follow their own law. That's why Dr. Martin Luther King comes into existence, to actually encourage white people to follow their own laws. And white people en masse are like, nah, I'm good. And that's why the civil rights movement had to happen. And so then we get to like 1968 was the last major civil rights legislation. So Black people have only been full humans in this country on paper from about 1968 to now. This tiny window of time, Black people have been seen by the law as full humans. And now that's getting rolled back every single day. But if you wonder, like, why can't Black people get it together? Why aren't Black neighborhoods better? Blah, 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 blah. We just got free. And to bring it home, I always use my family tree. My father's been able to trace his side of the family back to the early 1800s, 1820s, where Ben Plummer was enslaved in North Carolina. Ben Plummer had parents, so I know that my family's been here since the late 1700s, early 1800s, longer than most white people's families in America. I, born in 1975, so from the late 1700s to my birth, I'm the first person in my entire family tree born with full human rights. First generation. Been here since the 1700s. I'm the first generation of plumbers born with full rights. And so what I tell my students is the fact that you even exist today makes you amazing. Black people should have been extinct, giving the hundreds of years of slavery, then 100 years of Jim Crow and racial violence. We shouldn't even exist on the planet. But not only do we exist, we thrive. We create the culture and trend that shapes the world. People follow us. People use us as the arbiter of what's good and what's bad, what's cool and what's not. They take our food, they take our style, they take our language. still don't really want us, but we're still here. And that's the thing that I want students to get from my class. That's the fundamental first lesson, that I want you to understand how amazing you are to even be here right now. You're a D- student sitting in this class. That's okay. It's amazing that you're still in existence. And now let's work on that. Now that you know how amazing you are just to be here, let me remind you that amazingness is still in you. And now let's take that and move forward and move you to where you should be.
You see, that's why we remind you how much of a goat you are. I feel like I'm like 18 years old again right now, just listening to you, man.
I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate that, what you just said. It's still valid to this day. I'm telling you, everything that you say still holds what we have to understand as Black people. You know what I'm saying? I agree with that. Now, you are also a college professor, right?
I am. I'm an adjunct at Rutgers. I've been in the Africana Studies department for 17 years now.
Okay. So with that, what are you realizing with kids in your college course are still trying to unlearn, as they start to go into college? Because, like in high school and middle school are two completely different, steps. But when they're in college and you're teaching them this, especially in college, what do you see that the students are still trying to unlearn as they're in your course?
One of the reasons why I wrote this new book is because what I'm seeing is I went to high school I graduated from high school in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the students that are graduating now know less about Black history than I did back in the 1990s. That as progressive as America is supposed to be becoming, I feel like the students have been exposed to less information than what I got exposed to 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I did the math right.
Listen, math is our friends, okay?
And that's disturbing to me, that I feel like I'm starting from scratch with my college students. And that's common with history professors in college, that they often feel like they spend the early parts of classes and early years of college students undoing the lies that people got taught in middle school. In high school. Because I always say, American high school students do not get taught history. What you get taught is the religion of American patriotism. You don't get taught to critically analyze the role of America in the world, and critically analyze even how America came to being itself. You get taught to how to worship America. That's why each day starts the same. It's less like a church. What do? You start the day with your praise and worship song. That's the Pledge of Allegiance. You all stand and say that. And then you have saints that you can't talk bad about. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. No matter how many slaves they own, no matter how many rapes they're involved with, no matter how much torture of Black people they're involved with, infallible, right? We depend on them like they came from God, like their words came from on high. We depend on people that existed hundreds of years ago for advice on what to do with brand new semi-automatic weapons that these people couldn't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But we rely on their words as if they're divine. That's why when someone like Colin Kaepernick takes a knee during the national anthem, the reason why people get so upset is because you're not disrespecting their flag, you're disrespecting their religion. You've just disrespected the religion of American patriotism. They feel like you're being sacrilegious. That's why they attack you like you've disrespected God. How dare you not stand up and worship the same thing that we worship? How dare you be different? By the way, third stanza of the national anthem talks about killing Black people that dare to join the British to get free from slavery. So pardon me if I don't shed a tear for a song that talks about killing my ancestors who desired to be free. But I'm not allowed to have that opinion. And so you get taught that religion of American patriotism. You're not supposed to critically analyze. You're supposed to worship and adore. And you get punished for not doing that. So my kids coming into college, that's what they come into. The plus side of that for me, and what makes my classes an easy sale, going back to that thing about you have to sell yourself to the students,
Mm-hmm.
is that they instinctively know what they've been taught isn't quite right, isn't the whole story. And so they know to fight, but they don't usually have the ammunition to shoot back. And my class becomes the place where I load up their weapons so that they can actively fight back. And that makes them engaged in the class.
So, Mr. Plummer, teaching can take a lot out of you mentally. So I want to know exactly, how do you protect your peace and mental health when teaching?
What I've learned is that, I learned this from veteran teachers. There's times, most times, you can't take your work home with you. You have to compartmentalize. Teaching's different because you're dealing with humans. And so, like, if a kid has a problem, like a big problem, kid's worried about being deported, kid is worried about eating, kid is worried about safety. It's hard to leave that at work. Right? It's not like I'm working on a factory, I'm building something, the whistle blows, and all right, I can leave this thing, come back to it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But I've learned, and teachers used to tell me this, like, yeah, you gotta let some stuff go. And I used to think, oh, those teachers, they're just not about it like I am. They just don't care like I do. But no, they're right. You have to compartmentalize. You have to say, look, this is what I can do in these hours. I'm going to give as much as I can in these hours, and then I have to let it go until I come back tomorrow, because I have to make sure that my own kids are good, that my own wife is good, and that, like you said, that I'm good. You can't take on everyone's problems all the time, nonstop, without ever checking in on yourself. And I have become pretty good at detaching myself emotionally from problems at work. And what I mean is, when I talk about problems, I'm talking about kids' problems, because I don't get stressed over like teaching stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? One of the ways I protect my peace is I don't bring that work home. I don't bring paperwork home. I don't get paid to do paperwork after hours.
That part.
So I'm not doing that. I was so dumb as a young teacher. I used to have a big bag of papers and books that I came home and I would be working on stuff. And you know what? I wasn't dumb. I wasn't good enough to be able to do my job within the school hours. So let me be fairer to my young self and young teachers. In the beginning, you're not skilled enough to be able to do your job within the school hours. So you need extra time to plan. You need extra time to look at papers, to figure problems out. But as you get better, you have less of those problems. You fix problems before they even happen, so you don't have to take stuff home.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't take paperwork type stuff. I don't take that home at all. One of the things that's important to me that I indirectly learned from my mother, I didn't understand at the time. My mother was a kindergarten teacher for 30 plus years. But when she came home from work, she didn't want to be bothered. She wanted to be left alone. And I used to think, that's come in all grumpy. That's kind of messed up. But now I totally get it. Here's another thing that people don't understand about teaching. You're around noise constantly. If you're in a high school, full-size high school, there's thousands of people all the time. There's noise, there's people all the time. So when I come home, I need like a half hour of peace.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's not people talking, where there's just silence. And even I just need to do nothing for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
It could be scrolling on my phone. It could be sitting and daydreaming into space. But to protect my sanity, I need that transition period where I can just not be around noise. And as much as I love kids, I need that break. So mental health, I'm trying to leave work at work including the residual noise that's still ringing in my head. And again, Vanessa Bryant, English teacher, my mentor, used to tell me when there's stuff that's bothering you at work, we'd have a staff meeting, they'd say, we're doing this new initiative, every teacher has to do this, blah, 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 blah. I remember one time they thought a teacher was showing too many movies. So they created a new policy for everyone that if you want to show a film in your class, you have to put in a written request like 2 weeks in advance and submit it to the principal for approval. And I was like, this is stupid. Why are they micromanaging me like my child? Blah, 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 blah. And Miss Bryant just looking at me, she was like, well, Plummer, if you don't want to do it, just don't do it. Her phrase always was, and this too shall pass. Whatever dumb thing comes across your way, whatever problem, it's temporary. It's going to pass. So you don't need to give 100% of your energy getting all angry at it. It's going to pass. And as a young teacher, you're living in the moment, right? You don't have enough years and experience to know, oh, yeah, she's right. Because this happened 10 times before and it all faded away. You thinking, oh, whatever's happening now is going to be like this forever, so I need to fight against it now. And she was like, and this too shall pass. And she was right every single time. Have a problem with an administrator is driving me crazy, and this too shall pass. Wait a year, they get fired. A policy that makes no sense, wait a year, it goes away. So I've learned to let stuff go. Here's how you protect your peace. You find the things that truly, truly are important, truly are non-negotiable, right? A student's safety, a student's well-being, making sure the students aren't getting shortchanged in what they get in the curriculum. But everything else, just gotta let it go. It'll pass.
But I do agree with the solitude part, because a lot of times, like, again, when you're with kids all day, 5 days a week, it can be a lot. And I think that a lot of times people don't understand. It's like, even like sometimes with me, if I have a long day and I just need like an hour to myself, because before I used to feel like I gotta go to the gym after work, I have to be like this and that. People are like, you really do that? And I had to stop more recently of like trying to overdo it myself. Cause I used to think like, well, if I'm going to the gym, I feel better and I should be able to or not think about the noise of the kids and this and that. But no, like sometimes you need an hour to yourself. And I agree with that. But how do you, like you said, you don't bring work home with you of kids' problems. How do you, because I'm an empath. And I'm really working on to try to detach myself from certain kids' situations or what they have going on. Like, how do you honestly, like, really just detach?
I do it by concentrating on what actions I can take.
Okay.
Because student has a problem. All right, what can I actually do? All right, did I do everything that I can actually do? Yes. All right, then I gotta put it out my mind for now, because I could if I dwell on the feelings, if I dwell on the worry, it just makes me feel bad. It makes me ineffective for anything else I might want to do, and nothing's being accomplished by just feeling bad and just dwelling on the sadness. You get nothing. So I've learned, all right, I have to, if I make sure I do everything possible that I can actually do in terms of action items, I don't need to feel bad about not thinking about it for the rest of the day, because there's literally nothing I can do.
Yeah.
So, but that takes time. That takes time to let it go. But once I've gotten to the point that once I'm sure I've done everything possible I can, then I have to let it go.
Okay. Work in progress. Okay. So I wanted to ask you, even though we kind of touched on it earlier about like your purpose in teaching and like getting your feet in the door and such like that, I wanted to know, like, has there been moments that made you question your purpose in this field?
And that happens every week.
Yeah, that part. See?
Every week. You know, not every lesson is a hit. It's like right, if you're a musician, not every song gets you a Grammy. Not every album is good. And so there's times where I'm nailing it and I'm connected with my students and it's great. And there's other times where it's like, oh man, I got half the class with their heads down today. There are times like, and I've experienced this frustration now sometimes with my Latino students, where I'm talking about what's being done to them right now, how people in power are actively trying to erase them.
Yep.
They're actively trying to make their life a living hell. And sometimes I just get blank stares back, and I'm like, I can't care more about you living than you. Like you have to care more about your life than me. And sometimes I feel like I'm just shouting into the wind, into an empty void. But then there'll be another day where someone comes after a class and be like, I'm really glad you said such and such. I never thought about it this way. Thank you for saying such and such. So it goes up and down.
Mm-hmm.
But there's never been a year where I'm like, maybe I don't, and especially since I'm getting older now, there's never been a year in the last decade where I'm like, when is it time to hang it up? When am I the person that just doesn't have it anymore? I don't want to be that athlete that was a legend back in the day and no one has the heart to tell them that they don't got it anymore.
Right.
You need to go sit down. So I'm always self-evaluating to figure out, again, Vanessa Bryant, she used to, this phrase from a movie, and there was this guy that ended up, he was super popular, it was movie Sugar Hill, but he was like the man, and eventually his life falls apart, he gets on drugs and stuff, but the phrase he used was, I stayed at the party too long.
Mm.
And I'm always thinking, am I staying at the party too long? So there's not a day that goes by that I'm not evaluating that. But that's also, if we talk about growing up, that's also why you have to be willing to pivot in life. I thought I was going to finish my career teaching at Plainfield High School. That's the place I wanted to teach.
Yeah.
But then I had a vice principal that I just could not work with. I couldn't stand. And it wasn't stuck in school. Like, I'd still be angry, still be enraged after school, all night, the next morning. And that's when I was like, okay, I just happened to be looking somewhere. I'm looking at jobs inside of Plainfield, and I saw they had a history position open at Paz. And I was like, you know what? Maybe, and this is a mentor, Paul Panone, used to tell me the big decisions in life are made for you. And I was like, oh, maybe this is life telling me it's time to make a change. And that's when I decided to pivot, go over to Paz. I'm doing well at Paz. I've been there for, I don't know, since 2017, 2018,
Mm-hmm.
going well. But I'm always evaluating, like, when is it time to, have you been at the party too long? Is it time to find the next thing?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm glad that they gave me this photography class. That's a new thing for me to go into, because one of the things I am seeing about myself, and I do know that the next step in my life is, I've been teaching history for 30 years, but the thing I'm super passionate about now is art as a form of resistance. And as a photographer, I've become really interested in how all the forms of art have been used to lead movements, to push back against evil, to push back against inequality. And I know that the next phase of my life, I want to spend my time talking about that, talking about my photography, talking about art and how it can change the world. So I'm already looking at the next pivot. When I get to the point where I realize it's time to hang it up, because you don't want to be the old guy at the college party,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what, metaphorically, that's what I don't want to be.
So LeBron.
Now, see, he's on the thing, like, he's still doing it, but at a certain point, one of these years, it's gonna be like, oh, he doesn't have it anymore,
Right.
And you're usually the last person to realize that. And I'm trying to avoid that.
I got you. So speaking of photography, how did you get started with photography?
So I started in photography because I was writing and I realized it's super hard to get Black people to read. And I was like, okay, what if I could get them to look at pictures? Because that was the strategy behind Ebony magazine when it existed. The Johnson, the publisher, realized that if I have giant, amazing photographs, people will be attracted to the magazine. And then they'll follow up and read the articles. But that's why all magazines have amazing images, because it's the image that grabs you, and then you'll stay to get more information. And so I was like, I didn't go straight to photography. I was like, what if I did an art? But I can't draw. I can't dance. I can't sing. I can't paint. But I was like, this camera thing, though, that might work for me because I'm a tech nerd, too. So I get to combine an interest in art with technology, put it together, and I might have something. So in 2007, I asked my wife for a camera for my birthday, and she got it for me. And I became obsessed with it.
Which camera?
It was a point and shoot camera. It was a Panasonic VZ something. They don't even make it anymore.
Okay.
But I loved it. And I tell students all the time that I don't believe in talent whatsoever. I believe that there's work that people did while they didn't know they were working. But I got good in photography because I fell in love with the process of becoming good in photography. So no exaggeration, it was nothing for me to spend 40 hours a week either practicing photography, reading about photography, or watching videos about photography. It was how I spent all my free time. And it didn't feel like work for me because I loved it. So I love the process of getting better, taking pictures every day. And I just never fell out of love with it. And I just kept doing it. And I became more and more obsessed with it. I had a camera. Then I got a little adapter for the camera. Then I realized this stupid point and shoot camera is never going to give me what I really want. And so I got a DSLR and I just kept growing and growing and growing and growing and becoming more and more just diving deeper into that world. And it's taken me some amazing places. And another mentor I had in college, Dr. Clement Price, who was like the African-American history professor at Rutgers, Newark. When I graduated undergrad, there was an award ceremony because I was one of the top African-American studies graduating majors. And he gave me a book as a gift that night. And it was like a history of African-American art. And I had zero interest in art at the time. I was all about politics, Black Panther power. I got time for this touchy-feely stuff.
Right.
Let's take it to the man. And he was like, someday this will be important to you. And I'm like, all right. But fast forward, 10 years later, 15 years later, now 20 years later, I'm obsessed with it. I think art is our best hope to fight back against the evils of society because it allows you to enter people's minds like a Trojan horse. You think you're just watching something that's just a good story, but it's really talking about today. That's the whole thing with Star Wars, right? Star Wars, all the rebels are a bunch of terrorists. They're a bunch of terrorists blowing up the established empire's stuff. And we're all rooting for the terrorists. And we love them. And that's how most stories are, right? Most stories are about the little guy overthrowing some giant empire. But if you just come out and say that, George Lucas couldn't come out and say that he was talking about America being the evil empire in Vietnam. How dare you? That's so un-American. You're violating the religion of America, of American patriotism. But if you put it with spaceships and laser swords and Ewoks, then people will accept the message more readily than if you just flat out say it. And that's the power of art. That's why every social movement, every political movement has always had a soundtrack. There's music of the civil rights movement. There's music of the Black Lives Matter movement. All right, with it's gonna be all right. All right, there's always music. There's art that goes along with it. That's usually the vanguard, because the thing about artists is that artists by nature see stuff before it actually exists.
Yeah.
If I'm a painter, it's a blank canvas, but I already know what it's going to be. If I'm a songwriter, there's a blank page, but I already know what it can be. So artists can always see the future and see possibilities that regular people can't see. So art, I think, is going to be crucial to pushing back against anything that any inequities of society. And so I've become more and more obsessed with it and just can't let it go.
What stories do you want to tell through your lens?
I always say I like to magnify the voices of people that too often go unheard and unseen. So I want the underdog. And it could be in any field, right? Instead of photographing Rutgers men's basketball, I do the women's basketball because I think they need to be seen more.
Yeah.
I tend to spend most of my photography is photographing Black people because their voices need to be heard. Their viewpoints need to be seen. Their existence needs to be acknowledged. People forget that in the early years of photography, Black people didn't exist because film was limited, cameras were limited, and so a lot of the earliest images are only of white people. It wasn't until like the Polaroid camera got invented and cameras went to the masses that we started seeing representation of Black people in photographs like everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's why with Black people in art is super important for Black people because I've always argued that the fundamental problem of Black life is that Black people have not been able to convince enough of their white neighbors that we are full human beings. We lost that coming into America as slaves, that it was a chattel slave system that reduced Black people because of the color of their skin to mere property and not humans. And we've never been able to 100% reclaim our humanity. That's why we could be lynched. That's why we can be shot by the police and under dubious circumstances. That's why our history can be erased because we're not seen as full human beings. You don't do that stuff to full human beings.
Mm-hmm.
But only humans make art. So every time a Black person makes art, you're making a political statement. You could just be drawing a stick figure. You could be drawing a flower that doesn't seem overtly political, but the fact that you're making art reinforces that you are a human being and should be treated as such. And so art is of immense value to Black people, and it's always political, even when they don't know it's political.
I have to say, like, I'm a photographer myself, and I've been doing this for 14 years. Even like what you just did with like last week with the whole no Kings on protest stuff, like, because again, I was saying this before, a couple episodes before, how photography and art sometimes can be a bit overshadowed sometimes with what's going on now. But it always, like, when I see those pictures that you did, it always reminds me of how powerful it is and the stories that you're still telling to this day. It makes me like re-inspired again. Like, okay, like there's so much to see. I bring my camera with me more than ever nowadays to show to show the underdog, you know? So.
And I appreciate you saying, I'm glad you saw those photos.
Those are good.
Okay, because sometimes, again, just like teaching, you know, here's the thing about art. You take a picture, you throw it out, mm-hmm. and you don't know how it's being received. You don't know mm-hmm. if people care at all.
Wait, I have a question. Why are you so hard on yourself, in a sense, it sounds like? Or are you just humbled?
My wife would say, the licensed therapist, would say that I'm hard, and she does. That's downside of being married to a therapist. Like you'd think that it's like lots of understanding and stuff. She'll say stuff to me, deep probing stuff, like throw a grenade and just walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Like about being critical. She was like, one day she walked up to me and she was like, yeah, you're hard on yourself because your father was hard on you. And then she just walks away.
Oh.
And I think that's true of all ambitious people because you're always like, I could do better. I could do the next thing. I could do, you know. And so that's part of it. Like who I am and who I think I can be, there's always a big gap. I always feel like I can do more. And speaking of mental health, I don't spend enough time sitting in what I have accomplished. I don't spend enough time just looking around and being like, hey, you know what? I have done some stuff.
Yeah.
Because a part of me is afraid that I'm going to get lazy and not keep pushing for the next thing.
Oh, okay.
But that's something I need to work on.
Okay, because I was just wondering for a second, because like honestly, like I said, when you speak, everything that you say, the things that you accomplish, and just how you put yourself out there, I'm just like, Mr. Plummer, like you are great with what you're doing. For me, I'll say.
I appreciate that.
I just want to let you know. That's why I'm saying that when you say that, I'm saying, I hope you know that.
And I, you know what? I believe it. I still, at age 50, still deal with some imposter syndrome. Like I always wonder, like, is this the day? Is this the interview that I get exposed and it turns out I'm not who I thought I am? That's still what drives me sometimes. Like, I want to make sure if I need to, I'm having a debate with someone, they have 2 books read. Well, I'm gonna make sure I read 10. But you know what though? Wait, now you got me thinking. Part of that is being Black, where you understand that you have to be twice as good to get half as much.
Yep.
And so that's also part of my thing that like I got to go harder. I got to get more. I got to be better prepared. So I have that in my mind too. And also bad habit, comparing yourself to other people. Right? I see some legendary photographer and I'm like, oh man, I got a long way to go.
Yeah.
You know, that humbles you when you see masters in your field. And you look at your work and you're like, I don't know where I am on the process of getting there. But I did listen to, I guess it was a podcast, but it was a photographer that was talking about teaching. And he said, teaching photography, he said, don't show your students just your good work. He said, only showing your good work is either, I forgot, he said it's either egotistical or damaging to the students because they need to know that you don't just take out your camera and just nail it every single time you press the shutter. Like, no, there's thousands of trash photos.
Yeah.
And they need to know that so that when they're going through it and they have 1,000 photos that are crap, but they have that one great photo, that is okay. That's normal. That's the process. And so I have to remind myself of that too. It's okay for me to struggle along the way.
Yeah, that happens. It happens. All right. Now, Mr. Plummer, you've written your book, Black Kid, White School. What inspired this book?
My daughter, my kids, inspired me to write this book. From the start, I should say, I hate writing. I can do it, but I hate it. It's painful. It's, I think it was Stephen King. It's either Stephen King or Tom Clancy. They were on a radio show and someone called and they said, it must be fun making up all these stories and creating these worlds. And the author was like, no, it's horrific. It's terrifying. It's tedious. It's hard. If you're having fun writing, you're probably not doing a good job because you're hanging on every single word, every single comma. It's a lot. So I don't enjoy writing. But I was talking to my kids, and I don't remember the specific thing. It might have been the Black Panthers, the Black activist organization came up. And I was asking my kids about the Black Panthers, and their only reference for the Black Panthers was the Marvel superhero, the Black Panther. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I teach African American history 30 plus years, and I've taught African Studies Department of Rutgers for 17 years. And I'm actively looking at my kids to see what they know about the world and what they know about their Blackness. And they don't know basic stuff. And I'm like, if that's true of my kids, then I can only imagine what's happening in other households. So I was like, I need to, and then I thought, at first I was like, all right, no problem. I have time. I can teach my kids. But then I realized, I was like, well, what if I don't have time? What if, God forbid, something happens to me and I'm gone the next year? What have I left my kids behind? Sure, I have an insurance policy, so they have some money, they'll have a house. But intellectually, psychologically, culturally, what have I left for my children to inherit? And so over the past 2 years, then I became obsessed with writing this book. There's a line in the Hamilton play where I think Hamilton's wife says, "You write like your time is running out," and that's how I felt in this book. I was like, I gotta write. I was writing this book as if my time on this earth was running out, and I had to pour into this book everything that I wanted my kids to know, that I wouldn't be able to get a chance to teach them. So that was 80% of the motivation. The other 20% is in the summer. A couple of summers ago, I taught in a program at Rutgers, the Paul Robeson Leadership Institute. And I was teaching the kids the normal stuff I teach in my African American history class. But the thing that was different about this program, unlike a lot of programs that are for poor kids, that first generation students, these kids weren't necessarily poor, but they were first generation, a lot of them Black and Latino kids. So their father owns 5 plumbing companies. But the kid is the first one going to college. So college is a new space to navigate, even though the kids don't have money issues. So a lot of those kids grew up in suburbs and never had anyone to talk to about issues of race. A lot of those kids, again, didn't get taught Black history. And a lot of those kids went through school experiencing things. And when they had my class, I validated a lot of their feelings. So they could be like, hey, I thought that was racist when that kid said something, that thing to me, but everyone else told me I should just calm down. And I was like, no, you shouldn't have calmed down. You should have been even more upset. And it was just so validating. And that made me think of the title, Black Kid, White School. That what is it like to be that kid surrounded by everyone else being the other? Not just physically being the other, but intellectually being the other, culturally being the other, and never being validated, never having your greatness validated. And I argue that most Black kids go to school with other Black children, but they're still going to white schools. Because even though the physical children in the room may be Black, the curriculum is still white. The curriculum is almost the same no matter where you go in America. So if you're in Harlem or whether you're in Molina, Kansas, you're still a Black kid in a white school. And I designed this book to be the information that they're not going to teach you. That's why the subtitle is What They Don't Teach Your Black Child. Because I'm not going to teach you in this book everything that's happened in Black history. I'm going to teach you the stuff that they leave out about it. So you'll be taught about Dr. King and the Montgomery bus boycott. But what you don't get taught is that it wasn't his idea. It was that Black women came up with the idea. And then Black men preacher took their idea and ran with it. That it was Black women that funded that bus boycott. They sold food. They raised money to have carpools for years while Black people were boycotting the bus system. So Black women were the heart of that. Black women were the heart of the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party was mostly women, even though the iconic figures, including the founders, right, Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, are men. It was the women that were the bulk of that army. So it's the stuff that they leave out. That stuff about the timeline, about how little in the grand scope of history, how little time Black people spent actually being legally free, right? That's in here. How Black ghettos were legislatively built. Black people didn't just choose to move into poor neighborhoods. I explain how the government made those neighborhoods and forced Black people into it. So it's the stuff that you don't get taught. And as I was writing it, it was so much information that Black people don't get taught that I realized the book was becoming too long. And so I called this volume 1, because this book only deals with history. Subsequent volumes will deal with the psychology of the Black experience, arts and culture, sociology, and economics of the Black experience. But it was too much to fit in here.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the way I created this book was I've thought about teenagers today. And so the language is designed to meet teenagers where they're at today, but also to meet teenagers' attention spans where they're at today. We're in a world where people are used to watching short TikTok videos, YouTube shorts, Reels. So I was like, okay, I can't write a long, straight narrative history book.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this book is divided into a bunch of questions and answers. So it's designed so that you don't have to read this book from beginning to end. You could just randomly turn to any page, read a question and answer, and you'll get a meaningful history lesson. And then you can put it down and pick it up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I know adults too, increasingly, don't have the attention span necessary to read straight through a book. You don't have to. Get a quick 3-minute hit. You'll learn something that you never knew before. You'll be smarter than the person next to you. And you can do it again in an hour or 2 hours or 2 days. But you'll still get a meaningful historical experience.
Now, what is your favorite history lesson in your book?
Oh. It might be.
And if you don't mind, do you mind reading it?
Yeah, it might be the story of Reese Taylor. And let me tell you Reese Taylor's story. She was Black woman during the Jim Crow era. Because what you have to remember during that Jim Crow era is that if Black people could be killed with no punishment, with white people receiving no punishment, that made lives for Black women 100 times worse, because that, in addition to being able to be killed, they could, of course, could be raped without any punishment. And one of those stories is the story of Reese Taylor, and her story is horrific, but it really highlights the juxtaposition of Black people trying to live their best lives versus the violent white society that they were in. So this is her story, and this is from, I got this from Danielle McGuire's book, At the Dark End of the Street. And that's the thing about this book. I also say that I'm a teacher, I'm a history teacher, not a historian. So I don't reveal any groundbreaking new research in this book.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm doing is taking the work that high-level academics are doing and funneling it down to a way that regular lay people can understand. So this book is doing the same thing that I would do in a classroom. That's why it's in a question-answer form. It's written as if you're a student in my class asking me questions and I'm giving you the answer. So I just wanted to point that out as I quote from this text. On September 3rd, 1944, Mrs. Reese Taylor, a slender, copper-colored, and beautiful 24-year-old mother and sharecropper, walked home from a church revival in Abbeville, Alabama. Just past midnight, a gang of armed white men kidnapped her off the street, forced her into their green Chevrolet, and drove her to a wooded stand a few miles outside of town. Herbert Lovett, a 24-year-old private in the United States Army, ordered Taylor to undress and get on the ground. Act just like you do with your husband, he said, or I'll cut your damn throat. Lovett was the first of 6 men who raped Taylor that night. The thing about that is, imagine this, and this is what I was saying, that juxtaposition.
Mm-hmm.
She's a woman coming home from church.
Yeah.
And then this white soldier in the army rapes her along with 5 other people. And there's no punishment. Right? That's the horror of Black life for 100 years. That's why it's the reason why I like the story. It speaks to the lie about Black respectability. That if Black people acted better, none of this would happen. If you dressed better, if you talked better, if you went to church, none of this stuff would happen to you. She's literally coming home from church, and these men rape her. She's doing everything that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Working hard, has a hard job as a sharecropper on some white man's farm, but working hard for the white man, going to church, and all she's doing is raising a family, and she's coming home from church, and they attack and rape her. And it speaks to the whole idea that racism is not logical. Racism doesn't happen. Bad stuff doesn't happen to Black people because they're doing something immoral, because they're not living up to some American standard. It happens because racists are violent, sick people. And Black people should never feel guilty about being victims. There's this thing that attackers do where they say, oh, you're just claiming a victim. Stop being a victim. Yeah, I am a victim. And you don't want me to claim it because it makes you feel guilty because you're the person doing it. And not only that, you don't want me to claim victim because even if you're not involved in it, you know subconsciously that you benefit from a world that's not equal. And you don't want to feel guilty about that because you might actually have to do something about that. If you feel guilty, you might actually have to step up and change society.
Mm-hmm.
And that's too much work. And I don't want to do that. It's easier for me to cover my eyes and believe the fantasy world that if something bad happens to a Black person, it happened because they deserved it. And I like this because this story just debunks that. It's not about Black people being respectable. It's about checking white supremacists wherever they are.
Mm. And with that being said, what exactly do you want people to take from this book?
I want people to understand that first thing I was talking about, how amazing you are. Because throughout it's divided into 5 lessons. And the first 4 lessons are about the horrors that Black people experience. But also, the key word is the resiliency. Again, Black people should be extinct based on everything that they went through. But instead, you thrived. And that's why the last chapter, the longest chapter, is about Black resistance. Because I don't want people to read the book and just think that all of Black life is just about Black people being attacked. Though Black people have been under attack their entirety of the time in America. But the longest chapter is about all the ways Black people have fought back. The organizations they've created, the individuals that fought back, the way we fought back even in culture. That's why hip-hop music got started. Hip-hop music is a response to Black oppression. When in New York City, when the city is going, it's in a financial crisis, they're cutting art out of Black schools. And Black people's response to that is to create hip hop. Right? There's a line in the old breakdancing movie, hip hop movie Beat Street, at the end where there's a gospel singing gospel. And this is what I want you to take from this. If you don't take anything else from this book, this is it. There's a line at the end of Beat Street, 1984 movie, where a gospel singer is singing at this memorial service. And he says, they buried us, so we became a flower. That's what Black life in America is. They bury us and we take it and develop into something amazing, something beautiful, something unexpected. That's what you should take away from this book.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joel Plummer, I'm telling you. Where can they get the book, Mr. Plummer?
So, 2 places. The best place to get it is Sindell's Bookstore on Watchung Ave in Plainfield, New Jersey. You can get it from sindelsbooks.com if you're not in the area. The thing about her copies is that every copy she has is actually personally signed by me. So every copy is an autographed copy. If you don't want to do that, you can also get it from Amazon.com, and you can get the non-autographed copies there in paperback and in Kindle format.
I'm getting my book signed for next month's book club. So, yes, I'm excited. Now, Mr. Plummer, so from teaching, mentoring, photography, and writing, when you look back, what moments made you the man that you are today?
Well, teaching, definitely when I had to teach math to that 8th grade student when I was a 15-year-old in that summer program, that made me want to become a teacher in the first place. So that's the teaching moment. What was it? Teaching?
Mentoring.
Mentoring. You know, mentoring is a weird thing. Students choose you. And actually, the very first person I mentored, I call her my oldest mentee, is Kaylin Gwyn Moore. She doesn't like when I use her middle name. She was the person that made me realize that, because I ended up becoming a counselor at the same program that I went to as a student that made me want to be a teacher, the boys program. And she was a student there. I hate giving her compliments on camera, but brilliant student from East Orange. She's since graduated from Spelman, Harvard, has a PhD in education. She's out in Pennsylvania. But she was the first person that would consider me a mentor. And the relationship I had with her made me realize, like, that's actually the best part of education. Like, all this content, subject content, is just a way to get to the real person. And the most meaningful part of teaching has always been talking to students about their real lives. And she's the person that made me realize I can actually do that, and that I could be good at it. I'm sorry, what was the next one?
Photography.
So photography, what's the moment? What's the first moment where I was like, I have something here? It might have been, let me think. I have that first camera, and I got that camera right before my wife and I took a summer vacation to Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that camera with us, and I took some pictures. I remember a picture of the fountains at the Bellagio, and it was just simple as it is. I was trying to get a picture, and I got it, and it just felt amazing. It's like, oh, I actually did this on purpose. I actually got this, and I think I probably annoyed my wife on that trip because I kept bringing the camera and I was stopping, and I'm like taking pictures and doing stuff. But maybe that was the moment that just that little bit of encouragement that I was able to do it just pushed me on. And I know I do a lot of sports photography. I do know, oh, this is a better answer. On the sports photography, I do have a specific moment. I was taking just a bunch of local shots, but I went to a workshop at Unique Photo about boxing photography, and the workshop was pretty good. It was okay, but it was good enough for me to want to try to shoot a real boxing match. And at the time at Plainfield High School, one of the security guards was Harold Knight, and Harold Knight used to be Lennox Lewis's assistant trainer when Lennox Lewis was heavyweight champion of the world. And I went to Shadow. That's his boxing name. Everyone calls him Shadow. I went to Shadow and I was like, I think I want to take pictures at a boxing match. And he was like, I got you. And then like within a month, he got me access, because you have to be a professional photographer working for like a media outlet.
Mhm.
Within a month, he got me access to the Floyd Mayweather versus Victor Ortiz press conference in New York. And got me in, talked us our way in. I was able to get my first photos. So my first like professional sports photos of like Floyd Mayweather, all because of Harold Knight. And then after that, when fights happen, he would use his connections to get me in to take photos. And the photos I took from the events that he got me into, I was able to use to put a portfolio together to shoot for the news company that I've been shooting for the last 12 years.
Mhm.
So I say it all the time, Harold Shadow Knight is the reason why I have a professional sports photography career. That singular person, he by himself got me into the field. So everything I've done on that level since is all due to that one man.
Mm.
And what's the last one?
And writing.
And writing.
Even though you say that you don't like writing.
Yeah. It happens. The writing just happens. It's Zora Neale Hurston said, and I'm gonna butcher the quote, but she said something to the effect of, there's no agony like that of a story untold within you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I write out of pain, that there's something in me that needs to get out so much that it hurts.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me write. So not necessarily a person, but that quote, that idea that there's something in you that will actually make you sick if you don't get it out of you. And that's what happened here. That's definitely what happened with this book and the last book. I had to get it out.
Good. Now, Mr. Plummer, when you hear the word getting older, what does it mean to you now, especially as you're shaping the next generation?
Yeah. Getting older hits a little bit different when I hit 50 this in September.
By the way, when you said 50, I was like, I thought you were saying like, honestly, in your early 40s when you said that. I was like, oh, okay.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Like, don't crack, you know what I'm saying?
There you go. But someone told me, maybe it was Mr. Watson, a science teacher. Anyway, someone told me, living things either get older or they die.
Mm.
So, given the two choices, I'm glad to get older. And I'm perfectly fine with it. I'm wiser. I'm wealthier. I'm actually healthier than I was 10 years ago. So I look forward to whatever the new next older means to me. When we talk about getting older, you're talking about the future. And the future is always exciting to me because it's endless possibilities.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I have a game, Mr. Plummer.
All right.
I'm going to end it off with a nice game. The game is called Then and Now, okay? So I'm going to give you a few phrases, okay? At least 5 words. With these words, can you give me a few words on when your first day of a teacher thought of this word and how you feel now? Okay?
Got it.
All right. So my first word is success.
Young Plummer thought success was teaching at Plainfield High School and being the class that was kind of like an oasis.
Mm.
I would have students say, only reason I came to school was for your class. And Young Plummer thought that was success. I'm nailing it. I'm killing it in my class.
Mm-hmm.
Old Plummer is like, realizes, wow, that's tragic. School's 6 hours long, and my 40 minutes is the only part of the day that you thought is useful. Like, yeah, I'm glad you like my class, but Young Plummer would beat his chest like, yeah, I'm killing it.
Right.
And now Old Plummer is like, this is bad. And I've got to do something to have a larger impact so people aren't just having 40 good minutes. which is why I became a writer, which is why I started teaching at college, which is why I started traveling and talking and doing photography so I can have more than an impact outside of those 40 to 80 minutes inside of the classroom.
Okay. My next word is patience.
Ooh. Yeah. Both Young and Old Plummer aren't good with that. Young Plummer, no patience for anything.
Okay.
Old Plummer, time. As an old plumber, older plumber, seasoned plumber, has a little bit more patience because I know that not everything is as important as it seemed when I was young. Right? When you're young, someone cuts you off on the road, that seems like the greatest insult in the world,
Right.
in the world. And now someone cuts me off, and I'm like, all right, do I really care? Do I really want to get into it with someone with a 10-year-old Kia? Like, is that person that important to me? And that's the other thing I learned about patience. What helps with patience, I've learned that I'm important enough not to have to talk and share my time with everyone. And when you realize that, you can let stuff go a lot easier when you really realize that, oh, you really aren't worth my time.
Yeah.
It makes letting stuff go much easier. And also, because you've received stuff over the years in due time, when you have to wait for something, it also makes it a little bit easier. Because when you're young, you're insecure about, yeah, if I wait, but what if the thing never happens? And as you get older and you have waited and received things, it's easier to believe again that if I wait a bit, this thing will happen for me.
Ooh, I like that one. So my next word is purpose.
Young plumber and older plumber, that's something we're still on the same page for. My purpose when I was young was really saving Black people from a white supremacist society and from themselves. And even as older plumber, I've never wavered from that. Everything I've done has still been centered around that.
Fear.
Young plumber. Fear stopped young plumber from trying a lot of things. Definitely. Because I was insecure about my status in life. Like, for instance, something simple. You're a young teacher. I always when I was young, wore a shirt and tie because I felt the need to project a person that would be respected.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to do it, and I'm worried about doing things that would destroy that facade and destroy the respectable character I needed to be in order to have some authority. And now that I'm older and I've actually accomplished real stuff, I'm less fearful of trying things because if I fail at something, that's okay. I've now had years of experience of being good at 100 other things, and being respected at 100 other things. So if I try something and I fail at it, I'm not a complete failure. I just didn't fail at that, but I'm good at this thing. When you haven't nailed the thing that is you, like the core of you, when it's not pinned down yet, it makes it harder to try stuff. Because if you fail at that, you know, maybe I'm just a failure in general. But when and that's just sidebar back into teaching real fast. That's why in my teaching book, I talk about making sure that every kid has a chance to be the smartest kid in the room. You have to be good at something in life. If you're good at anything in life, it makes it okay to be bad at something else. Because you'll know that, all right, even though I'm bad at this, I'm still a great piano player. And I'm still have value. But if you never get a chance to be good at anything, anytime you fail at something, it feels like your entirety is failing. So I'm way less fearful now. And I also tell my students, everything great in life is on the other side of fear. Every big promotion, every romantic partner that could be the one, it's on the other side of fear of taking that step. You will never, ever, ever accomplish what you could possibly be if you're afraid to get on the other side of fear.
And my last word is legacy.
Young Plummer's legacy was he thought he'd be a great teacher at Plainfield High School. Older Plummer realized that life is much longer than what younger Plummer thought.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize I would accomplish all my teaching goals so soon. I would argue that maybe 15 years ago, I hit everything I wanted to do as a teacher. I did. I still do the things again and again and again, help people get to college, mentor people, but they're not really new goals. And so now I had to, again, pivot and think about, okay, what else do I want to leave behind? What else do I want to be known for? And so now Young Plummer's legacy is what's in the, here we go. Young Plummer's legacy is what's in the classroom. Older Plummer's legacy is building on that, but now to have that same impact outside of the classroom, to have as many people impacted and changed by my existence outside the classroom as in.
And I feel like people that has listened to this podcast will attest, and I know you will, honestly, to everything that you're saying. Mr. Plummer, I thank you so much for coming on. I'm grateful and I am honored to be with your presence, and everything that you said is a reminder of how much I need to keep going and a reminder of how much I need to value my life as a Black man. Just everything that you have been, the last decade of just knowing you and who you are. And I know, like I said, I'm not the only one who's, I can literally say probably over 100 students feel the exact same way as me. So I thank you, Mr. Plummer, just for everything.
Thank you so much. And believe it or not, words like that are what keep me going year after year after year. I always tell people, you know, if you become a teacher, you're not going to make a whole lot of money. You're not going to become famous. But words like that, that's like the Oscar award for teachers. And you make me feel like I've lived a life worthwhile. So I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you. All right, Mr. Plummer. So you're going to look at your camera real quick and tell the people what you got going on, promote your social medias and everything else, all right?
All right. So the big project that I'm pushing right now, of course, is my newest book, Black Kid, White School, What They Don't Teach Your Black Child, available at SindellsBookstore.com and at Sindell's actual bookstore on Watchung Ave in Plainfield, New Jersey. Also available on Amazon.com. If you're interested in what I've said here and want to know more about me or my particular style of teaching and viewing the world, you can come visit me at my website, joelplummer.com, JoelPlummer.com. And you can follow me on Instagram at Prof Plummer, short for Professor Plummer, ProfPlummer at Instagram. I hope to see you online soon.
Yes, guys. Listen, I have all of Mr. Plummer's links in the description below. Please, please, please get this book, guys. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be an amazing read. And again, thank you again, Mr. Plummer.
My pleasure.
All right, guys. It's been an episode of Getting Older Podcast. Please check us out on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and much, much more. Thank you guys again, and we'll see you on the next episode of Getting Older Podcast. Bye.